Hi, my name is Autumn and this is my video discussion board post. So fitness is a relative term, and it's used to describe the traits or genotypes that are passed on from one generation to another, allowing a species to survive and hopefully thrive. For crickets, fitness is going to be the ability to reproduce, and most crickets do that by playing a song. So the male crickets will typically rub their wings together, which will draw out a female, who will hopefully help them mate to keep their species going. Now, this is selectively good when there are a lot of females around and not a lot of predators. It can be selectively bad when there are a lot of predators around, so calling isn't necessarily always something that crickets want to be able to do. There's actually an ongoing study in Hawaii on the island of Kauai about the crickets because they have actually evolved to be silent. Over there are flies that drop flesh-eating maggots onto the crickets, which would eat them from the inside out, which is pretty gross. Through this, the crickets obviously were going to die out, so they had to mutate to make their wings silent. It's also been determined that because of the lack of genetic flow or diversity in that area, the females were actually already predisposed to silent males. So what's been found is that most of the crickets over there have been silent for the last at least 10 years. Scientists have actually already been able to collect samples from before this mutation took over on the island, so they're actually able to study back and forth. In the cartoon that we were presented with, the male that could play the song was eliminated from competition 3 different times. So first he was intercepted, or his female was intercepted by a silent male who just kind of stepped in and took his place. He was then eaten by a bat because he attracted the predator by singing a song. At the very end, the other crickets who are described, they're actually afraid to call because they don't want to be eaten. They want to go ahead and meet a female. So if no one's going to call, then there's not really a big chance for those crickets to get a response, which again is going to limit the opportunity to mate or pass on the cricket gene. So in this cartoon, I believe that the natural selection is actually directional. So the crickets at the end, it seemed that they actually could sing if they wanted to, but they were choosing not to. In this way, the crickets are going to be both calling and silent to kind of keep a balance. Really, it's going to depend on how many predators are there. On the island of Kauai, from that study, those crickets would actually be directional. Because of the flesh-eating maggots, the crickets have evolved into having mute wings, and that is actually the dominant trait at this present time. No matter what, it's always going to depend on the location for a species as to whether or not the cricket's calling is going to be beneficial or not. In that location, if there are a lot of predators that are attracted just as often, if not more, than their mates, calling's not going to be a good thing. If the crickets have to travel for a very far distance to find somebody, that's going to make it difficult as well. Also, weather. As pointed out, when the weather is warmer, crickets are actually out and calling even more. So that's how the actual environment is going to affect whether or not the crickets are able to mate. So predators, location, weather. Thanks. Hope you guys are having a great weekend.